Welcome to our website. My name is Drew Innes and I'm actually the owner and operator of Aya Lodge in Madarao along with my sister Lisa. So it's a pleasure. It's great to have you here on our website looking for further information on how to better plan your next ski holiday vacation in Japan. So I'm definitely a self-professed winter ski enthusiast. My family and I have got a young family, a son 15 turning 16 and daughter 13 turning 13 now. We've been skiing in Japan as a family for about the last 7 or 8 seasons and had the opportunity, the blessed opportunity really, just last year to purchase some lodges in Madarao, which is what we've done. And there's a whole bunch of reasons which I'm going to share with you on various videos throughout this website as to why we chose Madarao over any other resort in Japan. And at the time, you can imagine if we're looking to make a major purchase offshore for the purposes of property investment and also to have just a lifestyle asset that will become a legacy for the children, we put some time and effort into making sure that we were making the right decision. So Madarao is just a fantastic resort and for a whole bunch of reasons, and I'm going to share those with you shortly. First things first, let's talk about Madarao accommodation and accommodation around Madarao Mountain Resort, and also maybe going a little bit further out to say Nozo Onsen or around the Myokokogen area. So to focus on Madarao first though, options in Madarao as far as accommodation goes is really limited at the moment to lodges, inns and a few hotels in varying sizes. So it's still currently not developed out into self-contained condominiums or apartments, as would the case be for what I think is clearly now overdeveloped places like Niseko on the other island. So Madarao Mountain Ski Resort is located 11 kilometres from Iiyama, which is under 2 hours from Tokyo via Shinkansen. Madarao accommodation is varied and eclectic in type and style. And you'll see that when you get here. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to the architectural style of the buildings here in Madarao, and that's pretty typical of a number of these small mid-sized resorts that are littered across Japan. So most accommodation in Madarao is lodge or inn style, evolving from really a vibrant history around the late 60s and 70s era, where it really developed as a pension village. Once upon a time, in probably what you could only know as its more colourful days, Madarao was a playground for the more affluent Japanese ski and snow enthusiast and holiday maker, looking to establish holiday homes and bed and breakfasts, or pensions as they're known, as part of their early retirement plans in their late 40s. So it was also the location, which is really surprising, of a really vibrant world-class jazz scene. And you'll see evidence of that sort of littered throughout Madarao when you get here. Like many Japanese ski areas and destinations, it's gone through somewhat of what I would call a boom and bust, so to speak, and more recently a revival with the introduction of new capital from Western ski enthusiasts and property investors like myself. Types of accommodation in Madarao. Now, as far as Madarao accommodation goes, there are really 4 main types of lodgings that you could categorize as. I'm going to break them down here for you so you can consider what would be the best fit for you. There's less than a handful of larger hotels, and I say here really suitable for more of a organised tour bus approach. For example, like the Madarao Kogen Hotel and its sister building, the Monolay. There is less than a handful of mid-sized hotels. So there's, and mid-sized being defined as really somewhere probably between 25 to 50 rooms, and also suitable at that scale for a tour bus visitor approach. And then Madarao is really made up of a lot of lodges and inns. Usually they're between 9 to about 14 rooms, which can accommodate up to around 30 guests. And the reason for that is because of the fire ordinances in Iiyama City and affecting Madarao. It's far easier to own, operate and manage a lodge with under 30 beds than it is over 30 beds. So you're going to find Madarao as a pension village or a pension town. It's littered with lots of lodges that really characterise and bring character to the village. Now, these are typical lodges that you would book on websites like bookings.com, and many of them are owned and operated, as is the case with AL Lodge Madarao. We own it, and we also are actively involved in operating it personally, you know, with or without on-site manager, or some are owned by syndicates, all right, and therefore they would have on-site staff. And a number of private homes, however, not many of these private homes, if any that I've seen, are offered up on Airbnb. So the primary, I think, accommodation style would be to look for a small boutique ski lodge that's going to offer a very personalised service, particularly if you're a Western guest. And it's going to be, I define it as boutique because many of them have more recently been purchased by Australian and New Zealand ski enthusiasts, and we know what skiers want, we know what they desire, and we've got a high, a high level of involvement, that personalised service to deliver on that. So the quality of accommodation in Madarao varies greatly. So let's sort of talk about that for a moment. It varies from recently renovated. So these are usually the Western owned and operated lodges that make up part of the new capital that's been entering Madarao in the past 2 years, hence the revival. Now, it then varies to what I would consider to be well-maintained and operated existing Japanese lodges. So meaning that the Japanese are probably still living in Madarao in the off-season, so it's their home. But come the winter season, they operate as bed and breakfast with a very personalised Japanese service and experience. So if you're a Western guest looking for a Japanese experience, then it may be a fantastic idea to do a week at a Japanese lodge and a week at a Western lodge. And that would give you a fantastic experience of Madarao. And then moving beyond that, when you drive around Madarao, what you're going to notice immediately is there are still a lot of abandoned buildings. And this is when really people realised that they were getting into their latter years. You know, so case in point, the person that we purchased the lodge off before we renovated it was in their late 60s, early 70s. So people that are at that age in Madarao are looking to probably leave the mountain and retire somewhere else. So you're going to drive around Madarao and see a lot of abandoned and some buildings even in a state of disrepair, because Madarao gets a lot of snow. So if somebody's not carefully maintaining and upkeeping the property, particularly throughout the winter season, the sheer mass of the snow can crush the buildings. So you're going to see that as well. There is no question whatsoever that Madarao is now well and truly discovered. Up until more recently, the marketing message of the resort was Madarao, the best kept secret ski destination in Japan. And that is simply not the case now. With our claim to fame really being that 60% of the mountain terrain is ungroomed, with significant powder tree skiing, it's no wonder that it's becoming very popular with Western guests. As such, 11 of the most recent real estate transactions in Madarao since 2016 have been to Australian and New Zealand syndicates looking for property investment returns from winter lifestyle assets outside of Australia. And Japan is the obvious choice because of just the sheer amount of snow that we get and how consistent in nature that is. You know, as I like to say, it's not a matter of if we're going to get snow, It's just simply a matter of how much we're going to get. And therefore, you can be pretty confident if booking a holiday in Japan, and particularly Madarao, from the last week of December through to the first week in March, that you're going to get some incredible skiing conditions. And particularly if you're lucky enough to book in January and or early February, no doubt you're going to probably have one of those day of days, powder days that people dream of. So why Madarao for your snow accommodation? Now, this is something that I really want you to consider when thinking about planning a trip to Japan versus maybe considering going to Canada or Europe or the US. So Western ski enthusiasts and lodge owners have an absolute love affair with Madarao, and for a number of reasons. And I'm one of those. I have an absolute love affair. When I first went to Madarao, I just was like, wow, like this is everything that anyone could ever want for, particularly if you're a high-end skier. And it's a little bit of a misnomer from some so-called experts that Madarao has limited terrain in the context of what an expert skier would be looking for. The reality is, outside of the ski area boundary, which can be accessed as self-responsibility areas within just a very short walk, is an enormous amount of skiable terrain. In fact, we think, the locals think, the people that live there, the lodge owners, we know that outside of the ski area boundary, Madarao really almost doubles in size. When you take into the backside of Tangram and you consider the lift accessed side and back country, which you can also do through a professionally organised tour, if you've got the right equipment, then the skiing out there is nothing short of extraordinary. And, you know, having spent a season in Madarao, I can tell you that we are constantly discovering new areas to ski out in the side and back country. So it's really a little bit of a misunderstanding, I think, by many so-called experts that Madarao is limited. It has short elevation, but what it lacks in sheer enormity in the context of high alpine skiing, it more than makes up with the consistency and depth of snow, and also then with the varied terrain outside of the ski area boundary. And within the ski area boundary, there's more than enough to challenge an intermediate skier, high maybe advanced intermediate skier, somewhere up there bordering on expert. And the reason why I say that is because in my experience, again, being a snow enthusiast, the one thing that tends to challenge a lot of people is depth of snow. So assuming that you've been able to conquer the groomers and conquer the steeps, when it comes to powder skiing, it's a whole different ball game. And so what I tend to see is, high intermediate to advanced skiers that are great in most conditions get into the powder and they start to struggle. So they might be able to handle boot deep powder. When it gets to knee deep, that becomes a real challenge. And now when you start talking about waist deep powder, potentially to chest deep powder, so full submersive experience, most people come unstuck. And they're the types of days that we get at Madarao. So again, that's one reason why I would consider staying in Madarao. I can almost guarantee you that you are going to have a day's powder day if you come there. So a couple of things here. Let's run through these bullet points to stay on point. So it's a village located up an 11-kilometre road from Iiyama, so it has a real eclectic village feel because you're located on mountain and at elevation. It's not like you're staying down in some village and you've got to get bus transport around and then you've got to find your way to the lift network and then access the lift network up onto the mountain. You're living on mountain at elevation. That's what makes Madarao special, particularly around this area of Japan as a Nagano ski resort. It's unlike Nozo Onsen and it's unlike Myokogen. You're living on the hill. It's convenient to Tokyo via Shinkansen, so it's easy to get to by train and bus. which for families, it's just fabulous. You can arrive at Narita Airport or Haneda, take the train or monorail, get to Tokyo Station. You can, in advance of that, organise to have your bags forwarded to the lodge via one of the Black Cat transport services, so you don't have to lug bags around. And then you just make your way onto the Shinkansen, and then you can be conveniently into Iiyama and then up in the lodge, and all of that can be done in under about 3 or 4 hours in transfers. Okay, it gets on average 9 to 13 metres of snow per season. So there is a ton of snow here. Due to its proximity to the Sea of Japan, so we're very close to the Sea of Japan. The closest coastal town is Yotsu, and it is literally about 45 minutes from Madarao. And maybe on a slow day, maybe an hour and 15. So within an hour driving, you can be on the coast at the Sea of Japan. And what's happening is we get these weather patterns. You know, it's actually said that all we need for snow is for the wind to blow. So we get these weather patterns blowing across from Siberia, across the Sea of Japan. It becomes what's known as ocean-affected snow, hits our area, and boom, just unleashes. So we get a ton of powder snow. So great conditions for anyone that's looking to improve their powder skiing. Its varied terrain and quality of snow makes the skiing conditions excellent. And when I talk about varied terrain, I don't just mean just on Madarao. One of the other things that that people don't understand is Madarao is more central to every other ski resort from another ski resort. So what I mean by that is we are placed right in the middle. So it's easier to get to Nozawa Onsen from Madarao, and from Madarao to Miyoko than it is to go from Miyoko to Nozawa or vice versa. So when you stay on mountain at Madarao, within 35 minutes you can ski Miyoko, and within 40 minutes you can ski Nozawa Onsen, just conveniently by taking shuttle transport. Okay, so it's a great place to base yourself, because if we have had a big dump, fantastic. Walk out of the lodge, got your ticket, boom, you're on first lifts, you're skiing Madarao. If we don't get some overnight snow, fantastic. Wake up in the morning, have a hearty breakfast at Aya Lodge, jump on the next available shuttle to take you to Nozawa Onsen or Miyoko. And one of the things that we do is we run what I call a ski concierge service, where I'll show you quickly how to get up to speed with the local mountain, and every other day there's a car going to some other local resort. So that could be Miyoko Kogen, it could be Lodi Arai, it could be Nozawa Onsen, it could be out to Shiga Kogen, it could be Rio Ski Park, Kijimadara, Tagari Onsen. There is literally, how could I forget, Miyoko Suginahara, absolutely fantastic resort. So all of these can be conveniently accessed from Madarao and through our ski concierge service. Okay, so it's a dual mountain with Tangram Ski Circus, and therefore I consider a 10 to really 14-day destination at least for ski enthusiasts. Truth be told, you could ski here the whole season and discover new terrain options in the side country endlessly. And that's exactly what I experienced last year. It's affordable, and again, truth be told, everything in Madarao is still very cheap. You know, the cost per lift tickets per day is just crazy. It's 5,000 yen per adult, but when you buy them through voucher at Aya Lodge Madarao, we pass on a 10% discount to you, so you can literally ski Madarao for about 4,500 yen, which equates to just over $50 Australian. So it's incredibly cheap skiing there, and obviously the child price of tickets comes down dramatically as well. The other thing about Tangram, interestingly, is that we often hear so much about tree skiing in Madarao. In fact, that's what we're famous for, powder tree skiing. But if I could let you in on a little secret, all of the really great tree skiing is lift accessed off the peak within a short 8-minute walk of the top lift that anyone in a reasonable level of fitness can do. And when you drop in over the back, you're going to access Tangram trees. And the Tangram trees is really where things get interesting. So it's not just Madarao tree skiing, it's also Tangram tree skiing. When you combine the two and the lift access side country, there is something here for everyone. Now, I said here, it just has a really good vibe, meaning Madarao has it has a really good feeling about it. It's not pretentious. It is what it is. It's got some great restaurants and bars, some fantastic dining options. Everything is relatively convenient to the Madarao Kogan Hotel. The architectural style of that building is beautiful. It does need an upgrade inside, like most things do in Madarao, but Madarao just has a really nice, understated, eclectic feel to it, non-pretentious. It's not busy, it's not overcrowded, it's not overdeveloped, and nor will it ever be. So it truly is one of those unique, ski destinations that may in fact be able to retain that beautiful mix between Japanese culture and Western service. So it's got a really good vibe. It has liberal side country self-responsibility ski policy. I've mentioned that quite often here. So when I say liberal, what we mean by that is if a ski patroller sees you going out the back or out the side, as long as you're carrying the right level of safety gear that's not going to, so you're not endangering yourself or other people, they're not going to pull you past. In fact, we encourage people to, push the boundaries on their skiing. Okay, so we've got a very liberal, and I've skied in over 25 resorts in Japan, and most of them don't have a liberal backside country ski policy. Okay, so that's also something to think about. Now, its bar and dining options are growing as part of the new capital entering the market, and I've called it the Madarao Renaissance we're experiencing. Okay, so there are numerous dining options, and I'm talk about that a little bit further down. Last point here, it's somewhat landlocked, so the likelihood of Madarao being overdeveloped is low, and therefore it should retain a nice balance between Japanese culture and Western service. So if that's what you're looking for out of a ski vacation, so if you're not looking for the overcrowding, the rising prices, the snow conditions just being skied out immediately, like people are now experiencing in Niseko and other areas of Hokkaido, then I would strongly suggest you consider Honshu as an option and Madarao or its environs as an option, because you're going to get this type of experience when you come here. There is very little self-contained apartment style accommodation within Madarao. Now, in future, no doubt, new developments in Madarao will accommodate that style of Western accommodation, because we are now starting to see some demand for it. All right, moving along here, Madarao Village accommodation. Okay, the Madarao Kogan Hotel is considered the centre of Madarao Village, or Madarao Highlands, as it's sometimes referred. There is a mountain map or village map that shows the location of most of the lodges and or inns that make up the village in Madarao. Now, please note, only lodges that are part of the local Madarao Tourist Association appear on the village maps. So if you've got a flyer, or if you're driving around in a vehicle or walking around the streets of Madarao, you'll see that there are local area maps there, but they may not landmark all of the lodges and inns. So you'd have to be familiar with where you're going, or have some contact details to contact the lodge that you're staying at. So when considering what Madarao accommodation to stay at, first things first, I would suggest deciding on whether you want more of a Japanese experience or a Western operated experience. Now, the standard of care and attention is going to be the same. However, there are going to be differences, subtle differences. For example, the language barrier may be something to consider, because chances are if you are staying at a Japanese owned and operated lodge, the chances are the local Japanese owner may not speak any English at all, which provides for some very interesting situations. So you're probably going to be doing a lot of Google Translate or using some other phone app to translate. Another consideration might be the type of bathing that you want to experience. So whether you want traditional Japanese onsen versus Western shower and bath. So many of the traditional Japanese lodges will obviously have onsen bathing, and many that have been renovated may have more of a Western approach to bathing. So that may be something that you need to consider. And yet another consideration may be the style of breakfast that you want served. Because if you were staying at a Japanese breakfast lodge, chances are they'll be serving a traditional Japanese breakfast. However, that might be combined with a Western continental breakfast or American style. So you may want to consider that also. And last but not least, Madarao accommodation with dining options. Now, one of the things that we love about Madarao is actually sending our guests out to over 26 restaurants and dining options, many of which are located within the Japanese owned and operated lodges. So many of the Western Madarao accommodation options choose not to offer dining in their lodges, as is the case with AL Lodge Madarao. Now, we've done that strategically. Last year, we had a reputation for serving the best Western breakfast in Madarao, and I'm happy with that. But I don't want to really go down the path of taking business away from the existing Japanese lodges and restaurants. So one of the things that we do as part of our concierge service is we'll sit down with you and talk about a bit of a meal plan for the week or the 10 days or the 2 weeks that you're there, and we'll book in advance your dining options as you think at least they may be from the outset, and then we can also always cancel reservations as things may change throughout your trip. Okay, so we really strongly encourage supporting the local businesses. And truth be told, the Japanese dining options in Madarao are excellent. So from my perspective, it's a bit like, why even try to compete with the experts that are expert at the local cuisine? So last thing, if you're planning a ski holiday in Japan, what I'd encourage you to do is contact AL Lodge Madarao directly for all of your Madarao accommodation requirements. We also have referral arrangements with trusted local Japanese lodges, so you can come for 2 weeks and mix things up with a fantastic cultural experience, and we can help you select a lodge that may meet your criteria because we're familiar with them. We can also recommend other preferred accommodation in Myoka Kogen and Nozo Onsen because as a growing Australian lodge owner community, particularly around Nozo Onsen, Madarao and Myoka Kogen, we all know each other, and we can also give you some tips and ideas on other places to stay. Okay, so AL Lodge is a boutique ski lodge owned and operated by ski enthusiasts for ski and snowboard enthusiasts. We know what you need, we know what you desire, and we're here to deliver on that service expectation. So last but not least, just take a moment, download the Madarao Accommodation Food and Dining Guide, and you can see a picture of that here. All you need to do is click on the link here and you can download that. That's going to give you some insight as to some of the owned and operated Japanese lodges that also have dining options, and we can help you plan that out when you stay with us here at AL Lodge. So I hope you found this video of a benefit, and I look forward to speaking to you when you're planning your ski holiday here in Japan, and we look forward to being of service to you at AL Lodge Madarao. My name is Drew Innes, owner-operator. I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now.